Not yet. Hello. All right, yeah. Okay. So if you're not currently speaking, we'd ask that you mute yourselves. All right. Well, hi, Shirley. Welcome to our first 2022 Verseweavers reading. I'm Sue Figeldi-Lick. I'm the current president of OPA. And we have several board members and past board members here. Our vice president, Nancy Christopherson, is here. Our treasurer, Rana, is the one that says OPA right now. Lauren Mallett is our chairperson of the youth contest. Who else we got on here? That's it for now. Susan Morse is our past board member and youth contest chair. And we've got some past presidents on here, I believe, and royalty all around, and some wonderful poets. So this is the 2020 winners, which seems like a long time ago, but the 2020 issue of Verseweavers, Nancy's holding it, just came out. So we're celebrating that. Dale did the cover as usual, Dale Champlin. And it is beautiful as always. And so now she's got to scurry and get the next one done because there's always another contest. And the new contest just started today. Nancy, do you want to say anything about the contest?
You bet. Adult Spring Contest begins today. It started at midnight and it will continue through March 1st at 11:59 p.m. So you have until then to get your poems in. We have 7 categories: Poet's Choice, Members Only, New Poets, Traditional Form, which is the Shakespearean sonnet this time. We have the themed section, which is Ars Poetica this time. We have age 30 and under, and Spanish language. Our wonderful judges are Jessica Mehta for the Poet's Choice, Beth Wood for Members Only. New Poets is Sherry Levine. She'll be reading tonight. And Traditional Form is John White. And our themed category is Susan Rich. Age 30 and under, Mark Jansen. And Spanish language, J.M. Bersange. It's going to be a terrific, terrific contest. Our awards for Poet's Choice: first place, $125. All the other categories, first place, are $75. I highly recommend you enter your poems, and we'll see them when we get them. Good luck to everyone. Have a wonderful reading tonight, everyone.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay. Basically, we're going to read in the order that you're in the book, and I'll tell people for people who are reading along and like to do the visual like I do, I'll share the page number as well. The first place winner in the Poet's Choice category, the judge was Lynn Otto, and the first place winner was Barbara Blanks, and she was not sure whether she could make it, and she has not so far. So that takes us to Stephen Pollack, calling from the East Coast. And if you want to tell us a few words about how this poem came about or whatever, that's fine too.
Great.
So page 11.
Well, thanks so much, Sue. And I'm glad I could be here with everybody. I really very much enjoyed everyone's poems, and I agree, it was a wonderful book. By way of introduction, my poem, Arachnidea, is a meditation on the ways in which folks try to cope with their own mortality. In each of the poem's 6 sections, a spider web serves as the main metaphor. By the way, if you're not familiar with the word arachnidea, you're in good company. It's not in the dictionary. To me, the word sounds like a compendium of sorts, perhaps an encyclopedia of things imbued with arachnid properties. The full title of the poem is Arachnidea, Line Drawings. Part 1. extravagance at dawn. Your finest threads are strung with pearls, and you, a brooch with a clasp. Magnify the shiny spheres to divine that each conceals a miniature, an image of struggling wings, of life undone. Pass at the critical angle, and they flash and snap in the sun. Part 2. These haunts are hung haphazardly with votive offerings, each sucked dry, papier-mâché sarcophagi, cruel chrysalis for moth or butterfly. Part 3. Serial killer, insecticide, the skill in which you specialize. Can we call it murder if nerves connect, not to brain, but to canister, chain, and gear? If the dumb drive to survive directs your every move? Or is it fear that fuels your addiction to others' pain? A numbness spreading through the vein as you rehearse again this ritual play. Find and consume in your quick, kinetic way. Part 4. A stickler for particulars. You're helpless to repel the pull of perpendicular, the lure of parallel. Do lines and circles insulate? Can order keep at bay the random drafts that propagate contagion, death, decay? The chords are taut. You draw control from patterns meant to thwart unraveling, but the tension takes its toll on the mental weft and warp. Part 5. A concert in the round. Divertimenti scored for 8 short hands will be played by the maestro for adoring fans. The fine fretwork glistens, the strings tune and go still. Once in motion, you dazzle in the parts for pizzicato, leap with ease over fourths and fifths, scuttle up scales to a dizzying height, then plummet by octaves to the sublime. All are amused for a time. The circle is crossed by chords, point to counterpoint, illusions of balance, of words. Listen to the last mournful strains, murmuring a requiem for the days.
That's pretty.
Part 6.
Okay.
The hours molt and fall away. The year grows late. Your web's worn watch face ticks in whispers, and you pray that you will hibernate but briefly and somehow wake. As if by grace, the breaths of winter fog the panes, leave no trace of love or joy or even hate. There are, in the end, only the frayed strands of time, the failing light, and you, splayed at the center, condemned to wait.
It's beautiful.
Love the word sounds, the word play. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Our next reader is a third place winner in that category, but he also won in another category. It's David Hedges. So his third place poem and Poet's Choice is on page 15. And he's also on page 35 in the traditional form. Take it away, David.
Okay. Well, gloss is a form I'd never tried before, and I knew instantly what I wanted to use as the basis for it, which is Richard Wilbur's poem Mind. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but in a gloss, you take the first line and it becomes the first line of the first stanza of the gloss, and it also becomes the last line. And then you pick up, and the second stanza has the second line at the first and at the end, and so forth for 4 stanzas. And there are 3 rhymes in a pattern I won't try to go through now, but I had more fun writing this because obviously I'm not going to be writing about a bat that flitters about in a cage. So here we go. Mind in its purest play is like some bat that magically connects with knuckleballs. No matter what the pitching staff contrives, change-up, slider, inside curve, the calls result in singles, doubles, triples, drives across the outfield fence that knock the hat off some poor unsuspecting fan who sprawls the asphalt all aghast. The pitcher strives to fry the batters in a pan of fat. Mind in its purest play is like some bat that beats about in caverns all alone. More like a horde of happy hour drunks that beat about in tavern, or a batch of Cracker Barrel clowns, a bunch of monks. Pure intellection at a coffee clatch, replete with undercut and overtone. Final exams that everybody flunks, leading scholars in a fit to scratch advancement from their list of goals. The drone that beats about in caverns all alone, contriving by a kind of senseless wit what targets to home in on, thrives on fear. The weave and flitter draw a steady stream of ready answers, none of which is clear. Prescient ones are poised to skim the cream. Resplendent to their heart's content, they flit about the blackest air until their Learjet's landing gears explode. A primal scream on impact after guidance systems quit. Contriving by a kind of senseless wit not to conclude against a wall of stone. Mine's more a metaphor for catcher's mask, deflecting fouls that otherwise might force professors to object and take to task doubtless similes for changing course. Wading knee-deep in the twilight zone, benighted, tippling from a pocket flask, concocting gobbledygook without remorse, mind plots with grace to overthrow the throne, not to conclude against a wall of stone. I don't know how it comes across in the reading, but it's I've never had so much fun with a poem. I was told I should read the other one too. And
Yeah.
this is a short one, obviously, it's a trialet. And again, this is a brand new form for me. I'd never tried a trialet. So it's nice to that somebody else likes it. Its title is "Oh World." Oh world, you're such a pretty place. More people should applaud your form. More should appreciate your face. Oh world, you're such a pretty place. Your splendid attributes, your grace, your constancy beyond the norm. Oh world, you're such a pretty place. More people should applaud your form. Okay.
Wonderful. I'm trying to deal with people who can't get in, who are trying to get in. So I'm getting desperate emails on my other computer. But we'll carry on. Our next reader is Kathy Kane. And what did you win, Kathy? Tell me. You are muted.
There, is that better?
Way better.
Hi, everyone. I won
Okay.
the first place for the members only.
That's
And
right.
I want to thank OPA, obviously, and thank all of you on the board, present and past people who have given so much of your time. Really, really appreciate it. And this is a nice kind of intimate group this evening. It's a nice small group. And I also want to thank Andrea Hollander, who was the judge for this. And I was very flattered that this piece was chosen.
It's on page 21.
Yes, page 21. I also want to say that one time I asked a counselor, how how long does it take to grieve? You know, I feel like I should be over this now, you know, maybe 2 years or something. This was when I was young. And she said, you know, grieving takes as long as it takes. And so here is a poem that took a long time to write. It's called Cradling Dad. I hooked up to the galaxy of the centrifuge, my milky platelets swirling like stars, like swifts into the chimney of night. I held the dream of him, the rhythm of his breath. How he loved the Milky Way, how he needed the stars. Then the swift dark wind, those stars like blossoms scattered. Then the snap of bough that could not cradle nor hold against the relentless cold.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Okay. Our next reader is the second place in the members only category, Don Kuntz.
Good evening, Sue. Thanks for organizing this. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks to you all for being here, virtually anyway. The way this poem came about is before the pandemic hit, for the last 15 years, my wife of many talents has been exercising those as a photographer, traveling the world to remote tribal areas and Buddhist nations in particular, and documenting a way of life that will soon no longer be in existence. Consequently, my wife and I attend a lot of photography shows when we're out traveling. And this poem grew out of going to a photography show at the Portland Art Museum. And as we were viewing the photographs in there, it occurred to me that photography has a pretty severe technological limitation. And it has to do with the frame. And the most exciting possibilities for me, the most challenging ones, where the artist hangs out near the edge of what that frame might be able to include. So this poem is called Framing. You build a world from fragments, a row of decaying brownstones, an empty street in the morning rain, a mud-spattered, much battered tailgate. You can't zoom out enough to frame that half-acre banyan tree in Lahaina, that treaty site at Medicine Lodge Creek, that macaque colony reclining on Gibraltar. You focus on small curiosities, a book's fractured spine, a mirror that hides your image, a door partially open to darkness. You develop disconnections, light dying in a coyote's eye, the patina on a bronze doorknob, the threshold we never cross.
Mhm.
Most of those images came from my imagination rather than the photography show, although a few of them were triggered by the show itself. Thanks so much for listening.
Well, thank you for reading. Our next reader is Dan Kaufman. And his poem is third place in the members only category on page 25. Did you have more than one, Dan?
I did, yeah. The
That's
first
so-
place in the Pantoum and the fall
That's
contest.
right. That's right. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks to everybody else that is online tonight. Those of us of a certain age, I think, can recall periods of our lives when we were defined by unhealthy relationships. And hopefully all of us have survived those. This poem talks about one of those in my past, Dawn Donuts. I didn't figure my universe then as donut shaped, a single surface torus iced. Pre-dawn, I'd slip the grip of her Berkeley bed for Petaluma in my postal blues. 2 donuts, waxy sacked beside me, as I drove the arc of an exitless bridge, my fingers licked innocent, obeying what I couldn't kick. Clocking in, then endless letters later out, my sleepless body spent. Those days I applied a quirked geometry for siren space-time, folding me into confection, sugar shapes that jacked my flexes, one maple, one glazed, empty sweetness from Derby donuts, the sticky, disorienting business bathed in buzz fluorescence. Keep the change, I'd mumble, extending my dollar to the turbaned clerk who, seeing this dependence, blessed me.
Hmm. Can't go wrong with a poem about donuts.
I agree. Okay, and then this is from the Fall Pantoon Contest, fortunate enough to get the first place award. As you all know, this is Black History Month, and I'm hopeful that one day that will be unnecessary. But unfortunately, here in 2022, it is still necessary. This is called Say Their Names.
Page 83.
As we step toward justice, we must say their names. Mr. Arbery, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Floyd, discarded while Black. Knee-necked, bulleted, erased by cold aims, the roll call continues, each a bitter flashback. Mr. Floyd, Mr. Arbery, Ms. Taylor, disposed of while Black. From presumption, abrupt execution. The roll call unending, each bitter flashback reveals a toxic, law-shrugging solution. From presumption, of course, execution. Their aspect is other. They could be fictitious. Law shrugging seems just the solution. Due process, that's not expeditious. Another, another, another. Their names aren't fictitious. These people aren't players from Porgy and Bess. Due process is not expeditious, yet compared to injustice, it doesn't oppress. These people aren't extras in Porgy and Bess, but our brothers and sisters callously slain. Scaled against fiction, injustice oppresses, while lynchings stretch out in an unbroken chain. The lives of our brothers and sisters lie shattered, knee-necked, bulleted, quashed by quick aims. Ms. Taylor, Mr. Floyd, Mr. Arbery, their Black Lives Matter. As we step toward justice, keep saying their names.
Bravo. Thank you, Dan. That was terrific. Our next reader is the third place winner in the New Poets category, and that's Marianne Peterson. And her poem is on page 31.
Hi, it's a pleasure
Hi.
to be here among everyone. I thought the book was really good. I was really impressed. This little poem seems like a long time ago when I wrote it. I bike commute a lot. I live in Eugene, so it was very cold, and I kept seeing these dogs that were so patient with their owners, and I was like, they kind of look like angels, because a lot of their owners are having a hard time, and might be their only friend that they have is this dog. So, dog bodhisattvas. I've seen them wearing coats, wearing sweaters, riding in bike baskets and shopping carts. tied up outside stores on concrete, waiting for their beloved. Dog bodhisattvas are not bogged down in dogma. They are not downward dogs. Dog bodhisattvas are often harnessed for duty and wearing a badge or a service vest, absorbing or deflecting suffering for those they serve. Dog bodhisattvas meet others where they are, leading or following their person in need. They model forgiveness.
Yay, thank you. That's wonderful. Our next reader was supposed to be Joan Dobby, and she's having trouble getting in. I hope that she makes it sooner or later. So we're going to move on to Charles Castle. There he is. We're looking up here.
All right. Nice to have the opportunity to read. So thank you very much. And thank you all for being here and enjoying listening to your poetry. I don't have the book in front of me, so I'm going to read the
Just
short
read
one
it.
first, Weather Vane. And I
It is
was,
page 71.
thank you. I was wanting to write a very image-oriented poem, and I heard butterfly weather vane, and I kind of like that. And the sound suggested a space in between. And I think that's what got this thing started, left and right justified. And it seemed to fit the poem. Weather vane. Butterfly weather vane. Metal roof on a red barn, hay stacked. John Deere tractor backed against a picket fence. 4 black cows and a prize bull some distance on a hill. A farmer's wife in a garden plot, tomato plants, a trellis vine, flowered like the woman's dress. A stoic scarecrow with a clergy collar, screen door swinging on a crooked hinge. An old dog beneath a cottonwood, asleep. And the farmer's teenage daughter, cocooned in a rope hammock, reading Anais Nin.
Nice.
Love it.
The Ballad of Chaos Nightingale is not a poem I went looking for. I've written a few ballads and they tend to be on the longer side, but this one was strange to me. This character was like a visitation. And it's kind of 2 parts, I suppose. But anyway, it was not a poem I went looking for.
It's on page 63.
My name is Chaos Nightingale. My mother christened me, but it was my father's song I followed here. Come with me. We begin as I've begun, and we will end no differently. I am bent by age in these somber times. My back is humped by life's uneven weight. I don't complain, I welcome it. I live in a house behind a church, a stone house in a field of standing stones. I live on a broth of flowers left for grief. My bread, a crust of loss. I spend my days as a poor man spends, little by little, close to nothing, but nothing or close to it is enough, and my prayers are often for nothing. The hide on my feet is the leather of my coming and going. I go as best I can, though less of me returns. These days are distractions, but nights are a passage by dream, and all I meet along the way are like me. And though they may not favor me, we are allied by our attire. My coat is threadbare to the sky, a tatter to rain. My hat is a rag-worn crown. Each day's weather is an advance of clouds towards storm, building on the hours. It is on this branch of road I sing through dust and cloudburst, leaning on a skull-capped cane. I no longer nurse a muse. We share the same infirmities. There is no unhappy word. One is like another, and with you, we face into them as a headwind. On this path across a bridge, we visit a city shrouded by fog. To describe the architecture is to describe fog giving birth to spires under a halo of moons. The inhabitants sleep, or perhaps in a pandemic they do not brave the night. We rarely see but a glimpse of them. A murmur of prayer narrows through the streets. There are no songs shared among ravens and crows. Wood and stone render perspectives of charmed facades. We meet at a fountain square down a cobbled boulevard. You might wonder what intelligence designed it, but if genius gave it order, we are strangers to it. Yet there are inscriptions on the arches that genius had some hand in, but the language is forgotten. In a quaint and vacant neighborhood, a bell rings once. Shadows absorb the peal and the hour is hidden. There is an aroma of bread we've never tasted. Somewhere, a baker kneads in solitude, his hands a contrast of shadows on leavened dough cast by a fire where the oven's warm. Here is a single lamp-lit lane where we browse about the windowed shops, but carelessly. Our remoteness is a currency without exchange on this side of bolted doors with their keepers all burrowed home. Up the wine-stained stoops of shuttered taverns, copper counters reek of hops. The upturned chairs on cafe tables reach toward darkened ceiling fans. The alleys that we pass are robbed of light. Our destination nears. We climb a hill where a bell tower with a clock appears, but not a knell upon the knoll will call the hour. And though we spend it here, we cannot stay. We only visit to take the view. Yet should the fog part before the city wakes with its virus and its prayers, we'll sing a single penny's love to the disease and beg it leave us whole again. Or by the bell at dawn, return across the bridge to find the field of stones has multiplied, as have the flowers left for grief that we collect along with the water from the rain. Thank you.
Aren't you
That is
glad you
amazing.
followed it?
Charles, have you
They-
re-edited that?
Just the end. I was never quite comfortable with the way the ending was. I
I thought
added
so.
a little bit.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I
well, that's
changed.
beautiful.
Thanks.
I recognize
Okay.
you from a reading in Eugene, so it's nice to see you again.
Recent?
No, back when we had the readings in person.
Well, I'm impressed that you can remember back that far.
I liked your poetry.
Thank you.
Back in the good old days.
Yes, more live readings, please.
That'd be nice. Okay, well, our next reader is Sherry Levine, and she got second place in the members only category in the fall contest. And
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Dale. What a wonderful, wonderful book. Excuse me. This poem is for my mother. Oh, and I
Page
liked it so.
69.
Yeah, I liked it so much that I wrote a book with the same title, Stealing Flowers from the Neighbors. No dark sunglasses, no hood over my head, no scissors, shopping bag slung over my shoulder. I slide behind bushes, pricked by brambles, yank and snap, rip and tear. No worry or rush or hush from the birds. Squirrels too busy collecting nuts don't stop on the lawn to judge. Dandelion spores fill the air like dust. A silent sneeze, a cough caught in my throat. I crawl under towering weeds and hedges, wedge myself between rocks and prickly thorns. I do not feel the scraping of my knees or the bee sting, burn of the sun on my cheeks, heat on my hatless head. Stealing flowers from the neighbors, I could only think of you in your hospice bed, your weary head, waiting for me to appear.
thank you, Sherry. Yeah, I remember. I heard about that book. Lots of good stuff. Our next reader is Robin. I don't want to slaughter your name. Is it Havanek?
Perfect. That was
Really?
perfect. Yeah.
Cool. Great. I'm gonna look you up here. I'm gonna be more organized next time. Are you, you live in Oregon, right?
I'm in Corvallis.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, members, no, new poets category. Second place in the new poets category, page 77.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. And thank you all these. It's such an honor to be among all of you. And I'm so enjoying this poetry tonight. I have a short poem and I take the epigraph from Kay Ryan, a poem of Kay Ryan's called Age. And her line is, something weak strengthens until they are more and more it, like letting in heaven. And my poem is titled Her Eyes, after Kay Ryan. It wasn't like that old barn, the way it fell into itself until what was holding it up was less than what had given in. This old crooked man strolling his wife in a wheelchair across the footbridge, runners and bikers dodging the out-of-time pair. When he turned her out of the traffic to face the river and beyond, smiling only when he caught her eyes, only her eyes, something weak strengthened.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is all the prize winners that we had scheduled for tonight. Vicky, you are here. If you wanted to read tonight, that would be fine too. Otherwise, we will hold you for Thursday. Oh, one lost soul's coming in. Still hoping that Joan Dobby will get in. But she's not here now, so we should start our open mic. It's okay if you read before, and if you haven't read before tonight, that's fine too. All are welcome. I'm gonna do what Mark's been doing on the Salem Poetry Project, and if you want to read, go down below to the reactions area, and there's a place to raise your hand. So click on that raised hand and put your hand up if you want to read, your computerized hand.
I'm
Everybody
sorry, I
find?
can't find that.
Okay, down below the people's faces, there's
Okay,
a thing that says reactions. If you click down there.
I just have a black band down there. Up above, I've got participants where I can
No,
do those.
go to your left. Go to your left to the gallery.
Okay, to the gallery.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I'm
if
in
you
the
put your
gallery.
cursor down below there, a bunch of things should come up.
Don't see it, sorry.
Okay, but you want to read, right?
I would like to, if you'll give me a minute, I've got to dig this out of the file, but it'll just be
Oh,
a
yeah.
second.
I'm going to do you on the order that I see you on my screen, because that's the only thing I can do now. Shirley is leaving. Good night. Thank you. Okay, then our first reader is going to be Kathy, who is over here on my upper left of my screen.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much. And oh, am I muted? No.
Nope, not at all.
Okay, well, thank you all. And it was a wonderful reading. I'm really glad I got the word today. Just found out today, so I was happy to get here. This one is about a wild plant that most of you who've walked in the woods know about. It's called burrs. They get everywhere and stick. Tiny, tenacious, jumping aboard each time you walk in the wild. Ancient compulsion. Nature got it right. Impossible to shake. A second skin of prickly potential riding you home. It's the little things that stay with us. That last backward glance, that flash of blue sleeve. We keep watch for the momentous, on guard against tsunamis, quakes. Miss the minute. Try now to brush them off. You'll miss a few. They'll stay with you, cling like a lipstick kiss, a lament. Be there long after you have forgotten what you first brushed against. Thank you. Thank you.
Stuff. Do you have any others? Oh, okay.
I do, but
forgot
I'll
to
wait for
mention-
the others.
Okay, I say you get 5 minutes. We're doing fine on time, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, God. I got to pick one then. All right, I'll do another one. I'll do another one like that. It's called lichen. We all know what lichen is, I hope.
Yeah.
Lichen is an alliance, fungal algae with the magical knack of extracting minute particles of food from the hardest surface. First colonist, hardy DeSoto of microscopic adventures, scorched or frozen, it persists in settling deserts, mountains, rocky volcanic tuff. Its acidic attitude wears away the most stony of hosts. It feeds on rock, survives on hope, has been my mentor for too long, too long. Thank you. Good night.
Nice. I also want to mention, if anybody has a book they want to promote, please put the link in the chat so people can help your sales. Emmett, you are next. Emmett Wheatfall.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. The poem that I've chosen for tonight, I changed my mind. I really want to commend Dan Kaufman for his courage to write about social justice and social injustice. Since this is Black History Month, I decided, well, since I'm Black, why don't I offer something in the tradition of Black history and social justice. The poem is called White America, and there's an epigraph. And it's an epigraph that I've taken from Langston Hughes' seminal poem, I Too, and a portion of that reads, I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Here is my poem. We are not asking you for access to the table and seats. Despite being promised, we have every right to our seats. Observing how there are insufficient numbers of seats. We cannot go back to the kitchens from where we came. We will not return to those fields we toiled to churn again. Let the seas be damned before we set sail as slaves again. White America, you've tried your best to placate us, nestled us between white breasts that refuse to embrace us. To Black America, given no rest from the toils within us. We choose now to ask nothing more or less of you. We find you lacking in persuasion and asserted proof. The United States Constitution, be it water, deprived of liquid proof. What Black America has strived for is to be one with you. Once upon a time, we straightened our hair to look like you, educated ourselves so we might be wholly accepted by you. After decades, Black America finds its pursuit vain. It's been a 3-card Monte in the form of a shell game. We've been fools believing we could win at your game. White America, it's time for us to take big steps away from your table. No worries. Black America doesn't want to turn the table. We will chop, carve, and sand beautiful new tables. White America, Langston Hughes told us how. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Fabulous as always. And when you've read, put your little hand down, please. Our next reader is Susan Morse. What you got, Susan?
Hi, yeah, thank you. I'm going to read one just thinking about all my friends back east in Maine and the nor'easter last weekend and this one coming up in a few days. Willawa Journal printed this one a little while ago. So we used to go walk up to our neighbors, had a big dairy farm up there. Sometimes in the winter, we lived out in the country in Maine, and this is about that. One winter night in Maine, we trudged up the hill to Malcolm's field in our mittens, woolen coats, scarves snugged at our throats, the cold a biting 10 degrees, only the silhouettes of his dairy herd watching, tails slowly swishing as if waiting for coming revelations. The sky like a hammered tin lantern with the stars wheeling round and round, the blades of your ice skates, the pond circular too, in the middle of the Jersey herd, their dark liquid eyes reflecting glimmers from above, and from below your whirling feet, which carved diamonds in the ice, your smile drawing us in as you swooped and swirled. We were transported by silence and light from a million fingertips, reflecting a horizon like black ocean, the air so brilliantly frozen, it hugged our very core, every minute sound revolving in hushed whispers, in anticipation of a sort of holiness, the beauty of quiet, soft breaths, and no one else within our own private galaxy, glistening like ice within the heavens. So thank you. That's for my friends back in Maine there.
Sue, I'm sorry to barge in. I've tried to get a hand up and I can't, so just consider it a virtual hand when you can get around to me. That would be fine.
Okay. Will do.
Everything else is virtual.
Yeah, let's just say you're gonna be after Lauren, which she's a few down the road. Okay, our next reader actually is David Goodrum.
Evening, everybody, and thanks for the beautiful readings from the winners as well as those who have joined the open mic. And this is a poem that's forthcoming in New Plains Review called Fear of Water. And it starts with an epigraph from a poem by Louise Gluck called The Drowned Children. And the line is, so it is natural that they should drown. Fear of water. That day, the toddler who didn't know, most probably off the back lake wall with the dizzying buzz of glare, a face of promise glimmering in the water's dancing mirrors. The magician pulls the table out from beneath the wobbling plates, the awed audience suddenly in midair, wavelets applauding, then nudging him to lifelessness towards the grassy piers. I listen to the dragging pass and fail, watch the men recoiling the ropes, casting clean hooks again and again, landing, beckoning, strange messenger between two worlds, and watch the grim, murky boatside. Sky first darker than water, then water darker than shrinking sky, one stealing light from the other, and think of late summer sailing, low stagnant water, broken keels, but not this eroding embrace, the insatiable shape of mouth, the collapsed column of air that trails a skipping stone. We are out here to reclaim him, out to take him back, not just wait for him to buoy on some channel, loosed by the lake like a bubble, the dark seat of his pants bobbing, hairy head in tow, two dark blobs sliding across the clearing clouds on the other side of the window. I listen to the repeated dragging of the bottom, a search for a sickening cold harvest, and wish once more for keels that might, half broken, keep us, though wobbly, moving. He was not opals that wet change to translucent pathways for light. He would be alien, naive, innocent, till he learned to dive and separate the water first with his hands. For he began with the breaking of water, then the shift of bone over bone until his head crowned, shaped like a cone, and thereafter, water refusing to ever fully support him again. Thank you.
Wow. We are all amazing tonight. Our next reader is Dale Champlin, who's responsible for this beautiful Verseweavers book.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you, all you winners. Yay. Congratulations. It was an honor to edit the book. I've got two shortish poems. This one is a piece of ancient history. I picked him up in a gay bar. The 602 Club was next to empty. The rear-lit Ham's beer sign on repetitive ripple, land of sky blue waters. He was born there, not in the bar per se, but close enough. He could have been a nectarine, a kumquat, dragon fruit, or a kiwi, but that night he was the cherry floating in my old-fashioned, skewered to an orange slice. I twisted his stem around my tongue and tied a knot. I'm lying about the old-fashioned and the cherry. I was drinking a juice glass of Coke. Hold the ice. We were sitting snug to the bar, knee to knee, elbowing the 2-gallon jar of pickled hard-boiled eggs. The barkeep that late night, Dudley, the one who still had his hair, ignored us for the most part. Mitch had gone home hours earlier. This was before snakes lost their legs. I was way too young to acquire any baggage, but I had a little cosmetic case of lies squirreled away like tubes of lipstick. And I'm writing a series of poems. I think I'm almost done. I hope I'm done on Medusa right now, because I've got 84 at this point, and I sure don't want to write anymore. This one is called I Shatter, and it's got an epigraph by Sarah Teasdale. I shall gather myself into myself again. I shall take my scattered selves and make them one. In windswept night, the bristle of dry pines, flowers gone to seed. Perseus has swallowed my hook. I lean my cheek into the curve of his neck. Walnut husks crunch under our sandals. We trail through the scent of crushed mint, the soft brush of lamb's ears, the shift of stone sifted to sand. Reckless night. Dear Grandmother Gaia, I want to write a happy ending. Perseus plucks Medusa up, twists her slight stem, flings the petal of her onto her linen sheets. But I'm afraid I've been damaged beyond repair, threadbare, torn, worn out, despair on my tongue. My pet ferret stirs on her cushion. Even the mice squeak in alarm. I have lived too long without kindness. On the crags, a headwind strips willows of their serpent tooth leaves.
Thank you, Dale. Wonderful as always. Our next reader is Richard Granvold.
Good evening. This first poem is from a book of mine that was just published. And
You got him.
Yeah, the book is called Kill the Gun, Peace is a Worldwide War. But this poem is a little different. This poem is called My Window. My window shows a light that ravels through it. So what I see is in the past, I have to be a nanosecond prophet in order to know what is now and not what is then, yet even my mind slows it down to process the event. So all is in my past what I see. Will I ever arrive to the present to be with the world and not alone? Now I must build the time machine. My window shows a light that travels through it. This is what I see. Flowers bent to the knee, but not broken. Stars across the sea that are falling. Words spoken to me that are barking. Dogs roaming free. Dylan asked, why can't we? I see a mockingbird in the Oregon rain mocking me again and again. I see a place called home, a place I've never really known. There is a town, a city, a nation, a world, a door to be knocked on, a key to be found. The Ark of Noah, a rainbow of promise, a coat of many colors stolen from us. A slave dressed in black, a prince dressed in white, a lamb and a goat, blood from their throat. Place on your son if you so desire. The Father that does not require this, if we but accept his kiss. The walls of Gideon to be blown down, war and war and war and war. Enough, I screamed, no more, no more. An exodus of slaves crossing the desert, looking for America only to be rejected. A cage for children, a cage for me, like the mockingbird I see, mocking and mocking me. My window shows the light that ravels through it to the sea where the stars are falling and speaking to me. Okay. And I'd like to do one more. This is a newer poem. It's called The Neon King. Moses's mad mind destroyed generations. Dawn, empty streets looked angry. Rising heat of day, street hearts with ancient connections to home and heaven. Dynamo of the night, the neon king blinks his light. Tattered, staggered, bare your bones to savages that roam. Scholars of waste and want through tenant halls listen to all through the window tinted with nicotine stains. The neon king blinks his light. San Francisco, Vulcan, Mexico, broken pottery, scattered token, lonely Spaniard in steam lamp lit night. The neon king blinks his lights. Ships to Africa leave behind a visionary American mind, leave behind the angels and the FBI, pamphlets distributed disturb the night. The neon king blinks his light. Lover boys are there for $1. Golden girls give a holler for a little bit more. Manuscript, package of cigarettes spread out across the floor, eluding consciousness knocking at the door. The neon king blinks his light. Music boxes breathing romance in the streets. Robots dance on the dock with steam-driven clocks, imagining steel and steamboat dreams where eternity is ever seen. The neon king blinks his lights. Who died in Denver? Who fell to their knees? Hopeless blast of whistle steam bombing Birmingham, Alabama, waking them from their dreams as they sleep on the streets. The neon king blinks his lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So good to see you again. Sherry Levine, you are up.
Okay, so as I said, I did publish this book and I'm going to read Stealing Flowers from the Neighbors. I'm going to read you a poem in it that I wrote. I lived in Albania for some time, and I do think it's important to get out of wherever you live and see a different culture. This is called Dear Albania. This is not the stick sock doll you kicked in alleys with your friends for fun. Not the frogs you caught with your mother's dental floss at the canal, deep fried legs for lunch. Albania, you haven't any flashing crosswalk lights. Your people run like frightened hens, children holding each other's hands, bursting across the street, zigzagging around darting cars. Those are no longer your parents sitting on their sofa, watching their dictator, Enver Hoxha, who jailed painters for liking Picasso and musicians who played like the Beatles. Albania, these are your benches dotted with abandoned military bunkers, transformed into cafes lit with tiny Christmas lights. Goodbye to your country, your family, toasting raki and burek, roasted lamb. Goodbye to your mother beating the rugs, scrubbing the floor on her hands and knees. Dear Albania, you no longer need your double-headed vigilant eagle flag waving red, black, and white as the ghosts of Skanderbe's flailing hospital gown cast out of his country, wandering moon, rogue star.
Change things here. Okay. Things got switched around a little. Marianne, I believe you are next. Marianne Peterson.
This is called The Rat Funeral.
Hmm.
The rat expired in the straw in the temple because of a cat. The dark rat had soft black fur and was still warm from life. Now there was no life in rat's shining eyes fixed in one direction. It was left alone in the dark. And sometime later, the rat's loved ones came looking, and they found him still and frozen in the cold night, and lifted him up on their soft, supple shoulders and carried him solemnly toward their home between the inside and the outside, where they washed his body and cleaned him and wrapped him in a black handkerchief and spoke lovingly and said prayers and pressed cottonwood fuzz underneath and around the body for care and cushion. They carefully used their little rat hands to add more offerings such as shiny paper clips and jute string and twist ties and cracker crumbs. These were surrounding the deceased, facing up and not down in final rest from the exhausting and exhilarating life of being a rat. I wrote this one yesterday. This is funny. I was doing this prompt thing and I didn't like I didn't like most of the prompts. I thought they were just not very imaginative. And one of the prompts was, what kind of tree are you? And I thought it was dumb. And then 3 days later, I wrote this. I am you. If I were a tree, I'd be you. Live in an old churchyard in the British countryside, remembering when my limbs were used to make bows for arrows, for the battles of the short-lived ones on 2 legs. I'd stand bent over, hiding my poison medicine, my toxic healing, stretching out the reaching branches to be carved into divination rods, wands of healing, connecting the upper and lower side-to-side dimensions. I'd live for so long my middle would become hollow, and it would be confusing as to why I was still alive because the center was open. Thanks.
Nice, thank you. Dan Kaufman, what you got for us?
Okay, this was prompted by the expression train of thought. And like rail cars that are connected, our memories are connected as well. And this particular train of thought arrived at a completely unexpected destination. This is called Facing Backward on the Train. Some won't ride this way, but I don't mind regarding what's receding. Like those shirtless boys we roll past hard at driveway hoops. I scored a quirky double-double once, 10 rebounds, 10 free throws. Coach Porter said, "You won't forget this." And I could hear my piston pulse, which I've remembered too. A rhythm trains repeat, leapt up, as if these tracks were reaching back, though this seemed inaccessible from them. There's evidence we don't recall events, just the last time we remember them. Remnants of traces. Like looking back through time toward black holes, those nulling densities causation can't escape. Maybe there are white holes too, where effects come first, all that starshine unconfined. Like that performance artist, ampersand, who walks into shareholders' meetings naked and to a warped cassette of "Let Me Entertain You" proceeds to dress.
All right. Did you have another one or is that? Okay. Kathy Kane, you're up. You're muted. There you go.
Did we get it?
Kathy, you're muted.
Okay, great. Again, I want to thank you all. I'm really honored by the quality of this group. The readings are wonderful. So I have 3 to read, but they're very, very short. I wanted to say that the poem that won the award, Cradling Dad, is going to be in a book coming out called The Weight of Clouds by the Poetry Press, and it'll come out this summer. This first poem is from my oldest book called Empty Space Places You by Finishing Line Press. It's called House Guests. The changing of rooms for the beds, the changing of the beds in the rooms, the changing of people in the beds. Of this, what does a child see? Who sees the child? To make beds of feather and down, one at a time, with care, white sheets fresh from the laundry line, how they fill and rise with wind. And now, with the flick of my wrist and lace-edged breath, how they billow, then corners tucked in, a pillow fluff, tender like the craft of Daedalus, father of Icarus. The tip of each wisp of white feather embedded into wax. The shape of wing, an arch expanding, wings lifting, rising, then are melting, falling into a sea of night, like a child's soft drop placed easily onto a strange bed.
Mhm.
The next book, the next poem is from my book from Poetry Press called Bee Dance. And I'm talking about a tree here, a yew tree. Courtship. Enticing him with her veil of Spanish moss, the yew sustains, prolongs a tender kiss from that huge boulder leaning down on her. While he inclines, she designs their courting through the years. Provocative, she knows her roots' strong hold, the slow wisdom of swollen sensation. And my last poem is from my book, again by the Poetry Box, called Shape of Sky. It's short. Storm node. Wildly buffeted by early winter wind, each yellow maple leaf that remains holds on to its wet black branch, clings only by a fine node to the source before it's torn. We too are cantilevered out from the knot of unknowing, witnessing angels painted on a ceiling dome, held by our heels in heaven, to look down and see ourselves, each woman and each man, to touch the weight where we began. Thank you.
Thank you. David, you are next.
You know, one reason I don't memorize is I do so much editing. And I pulled out a poem that I want to dedicate to Bud Clark, the two-term mayor of Portland. I just learned that he died this evening.
Ooh.
I just learned this evening that he died. And his life and mine were just, for 58 years, we were in and out of each other's lives in a lot of different ways. And this poem, he, for those of you who don't know who he was a bartender or owned the Goose Hollow Inn, and decided to take on the establishment and booted a professional politician out and became the people's mayor, who went around saying whoop whoop. But the reason I mentioned not memorizing is because the poem I just realized is missing its last stanza. So I'm going to plunge into it anyway and see if I can remember it. This poem was written in 1980 and in a form that I haven't tried since. But I should excuse myself here because I'm a narrative formalist, which is kind of like a throwback today, but it's called On Jefferson Street. Two trucks pass my window each morning at 9, bringing Budweiser in, taking Blitz Weinhard out. It's nice to know taverns are still doing fine in the face of inflation, depression, and doubt. Where else does free enterprise flourish replete with the devil may care found on Jefferson Street? The Goose Hollow Inn, excuse me. The Goose Hollow Inn rings with laughter at 5, stirring questions my conscience would rather avoid. Is work my sole reason for being alive? And is life my excuse for remaining employed? I flush my responses from bushes I beat, and they pop up like pigeons on Jefferson Street. When Porsches break down, they are cradled in slings, never hoisted with hooks like your commoner makes. These bumperless babies are delicate things, driven mostly by lead-footed nifties and rakes. My window affords me a fine grandstand seat for the Porsche parade along Jefferson Street. From Suicide Bridge on a clear day you see, with a 10-power telescope held to your eye, the red-lettered words on the movie marquee. Inside joy they proclaim to the world from on high. I drink to the failure of those who delete all the X-rated scenes seen on Jefferson Street. A block up the way, a man hunkers and stares at the sidewalk, oblivious even to cold, adjusting the cap and the muffler he wears, but unable to fathom the fact that he's old. He's someone you recognize, someone you meet when you walk in December on Jefferson Street. A block up the way, I'm sorry. My maple tree changes to gold in a blink. Then it's bare, then with new leaves and old, full growth and old. I see what I look at. I know what I hold. But I keep precious little of what's mine to hold. I watch as my, I'm sorry. Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm not getting it. I'm sorry. I have,
It's okay to.
oh, wait.
Yeah, it's okay.
I watch. I got it. I finally got it. Hooray! I watch as the seasons slip past incomplete through my time machine window on Jefferson Street.
There you go.
Oh boy.
It's in there somewhere in the folds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I even. I mean, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. And this poem is rather old, but it's.
It's good.
You should look up Bud Clark and what a character he was. And so this is for you, Bud. This Bud's for you.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Thank you, David.
Yes.
Lauren Mallet, you are next. And Lauren is one of our newest board members.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Dale, for all of your work on Verseweavers. It's been a really lovely evening. This is like jewels. The trouble is words. To get away from them, I walk the dunes with my blonde puppy. In the neighborhood of deer scat and gull feathers, I speed up to convince Murphy such surprises are less interesting than his nose would make him think. The moss and leaves are parched. The air is dipping into fall. There is little that's calm about carrying on. Some of the feathers are held together by beakfuls of bloodied flesh. Some days I step over the bits of my life soaked through with myself like jewels I don't have the clothes for. I whistle out 2 or 3 notes for the company. Other days I squat into my hips and take them up from the sand, bead by glorious, heavy bead. Thanks.
Thank you. Nice one. Okay, Don Kunz, you are up.
Okay, thanks for recognizing my virtual hand. We've heard a lot of talent on display tonight, wonderful variety, and I've enjoyed it all. But like Emmett Wheatfall, if I were to select one poem from the entire evening, it would be Dan Kaufman's Say Their Names.
Mm.
I think that our country has two original founding and unforgivable sins: genocide against native peoples and the kidnapping and enslavement of Africans. And until we have some truth and recognition around that, we aren't ever going to be the United States of America. So I applaud Dan for his courage, his talent, and his eloquence. Thank you so much. The poem I'm going to read just appeared in the American Journal of Poetry. And I'd like to preface that by saying I compose on the computer. And so I do a lot of cutting and pasting. And this poem came about when I remembered that wasn't at all like the cutting and pasting I did in grade school way back in the Jurassic period. So this one is called Cut and Paste, 1951. The week before Christmas, Miss Mickey Meyer passed out construction paper, Crayolas, blunt scissors, boss stitch staplers, Scotch tape, a jar of LePage library paste. She divided us into small teams, told us to cooperate, imagine, create, discover, share. Billy sorted the construction paper into a rainbow stretching hot pink to sky blue. Rex, Penny, Pat, and I formed a team. Pat cut out book covers. Penny stapled holiday baskets. Rex and I invented blood gutters, pasted handles onto daggers. Then we all remembered Christmas. We cut red and green construction paper into 1x6 rectangles, stapled them into chains to decorate a tree or adorn a mantle. But Paul, whose dad was doing time in Leavenworth, cut his chains from heavyweight steel gray. Paul made us imagine another place where chain leg irons and manacles punished joy. Dragging his burden toward the fire exit, he shuffled past Miss Mickey Meyer's desk, where she reached out to him, slapped his near hand with a gold star. Our class treasured such stickers as a reward for perfect math and spelling scores. So we went home curious about Paul's prize. After the holidays, Miss Mickey Meyer explained, such stickers reminded her of the 6-pointed yellow star she had been forced to wear in Buchenwald.
Wow.
Thank you. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Emmett, you still got your little hand up. Were you wanting to read or say something, or is that just?
Yeah, if I could read one more poem, that would be neat. And we're in the same wavelength. I was going to defer to Don, and you called him, so it's all good. I want to say hello to Daniel Hobbs, I think, who's on as a friend of mine. He's in one of the
There he
squares
is.
I haven't seen in his years. The poem is called 1,000 Years From Now. 1,000 Years From Now. My body is a temple displaying contemporary markings. Nowhere on my body is my name. Each glyphic is hiero. That is a play on the word hieroglyphic. Summon attention to the symmetry of these markings. In silence, each glyphic is saying something. 1,000 years from now, anthropologists will decipher each meaning, translating them into their various contemporary linguistics. Religions will have preserved them, codified, and published end-time theology based on them. Why? I will not have lived that long. My flesh will have returned to the dust that is of this earth, from where first man and first woman were given their mutual origin, whose history is inscribed on walls of stone, in dark and damp caves, where darkness flees light, and night the illumination of day. Nowhere on my body is my name.
Hmm. Good job.
Thank you.
Like that.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who does not have their little hand up who would like to read? Nope.
Yep.
Ah, Charles.
I would like to read a poem of Eric Muller's.
Ah.
Many of you know that he passed away a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And you know, he was an important member of our community. So I'd like to read his poem called Jamal at the Piano. Eric liked jazz a lot, and in particular, he enjoyed Ahmad Jamal's piano playing. So he wrote this poem, Jamal at the Piano. Jamal plays one note, the same note, just one and no other, marking him a bird with no range or a human onto something. Jamal can make the note toll or make it trill. He strikes, then pauses, so noon passes slowly. Or he pulses, so blood picks up speed. The door of Jamal's balcony opens above the street. The note exits, firm and clear. When neighbors gather and applaud, Jamal steps to the balcony for a bow. No one has seen Jamal's piano. Some say it is glass without the tinkle of glass. It is painted red. No, who would ever do that to its case of olive wood? When the ghetto went up in flames, bodies were stacked like cordwood in the plaza. Jamal's piano became silent. I will not play, he said, until people behave. Jamal never showed his hands. What does it take to strike one note fast, to lay down the drone? Did Jamal join the uprising? Were his hands injured then? Has he both hands? There is a prolonged silence above rushing traffic and the cries of children at play. We listen for Jamal. He meant what he said, behave. Jamal's windows curtained, doors locked. No one looks in, no one dares. We think Jamal packed a suitcase and left town. If only we had a witness. What was one note sounds like many in our memory, as if Jamal employed both hands. He could play the gibberish of finches, the sweep of rain, make a moon sound truly, so we knew the moon shone like smoke. Jamal could scatter stars. Some people pause to gaze at the balcony where Jamal once bowed. Now they bow. For my friend Eric.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, last chance. Anybody want to read? Well, you guys are amazing. We're going to do this again on Thursday with the rest of the poets who could not come tonight. And we'll have open mic after that one as well. The same link should work. And do let me know if you can't get in. It's frustrating. We will work it out, but let me know. And do come back. And thank you
Thanks,
so
Sue.
much for attending. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Night.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Night.